Hello, welcome everyone. To start with, I would like to apologize. My co-presenter is running late because we ran into some IT issues and he's trying to sort that out with our IT department right now. So he will be coming in at some point, but I'm going to introduce myself in the meantime. My name is Irina and I'm a senior product consultant with Tableau. I'm based in our London office and I work with the customers across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And my role as a product consultant is basically help our customers and prospects use Tableau, adopt Tableau, and spread Tableau across the organization. One of the things I see customers use a lot is Tabcmd for automating different server tasks. So mundane, everyday tasks that you do in Tableau server can be automated with this command line tool, Tabcmd. So anyone here use Tabcmd already? Okay, a lot of you, great. So I just wanted to let you know, this is the session where we try to cover as much as possible about Tabcmd. So we're going to start from some basic concepts, but by the end, we're going to show you some more advanced examples and some use cases that we see of what our customers do with Tabcmd. But let's have a look at the agenda for today. So first of all, we're going to have a look at what is Tabcmd and what it can do. We're going to share with you some interesting use cases as well that we see with our customers and how they use Tabcmd. I'm going to show you how to configure and how to get started with Tabcmd. Of course, we're going to build some commands, we're going to build some scripts, and then we are going to look at how we can automate those scripts to basically automate our server tasks. So let's start with actually understanding what is Tabcmd. Sometimes I hear customers, there is a bit of confusion between Tabcmd and Tabadmin. So basically, Tableau Server comes with two command line tools. Tabcmd is one of those, and it's used mainly to manage content within Tableau Server. Tabadmin is a second command line tool, and that tool is different. That one is used to configure Tableau Server, so to run configuration, change settings, etc. So those are a bit different. Tabadmin is outside of the scope of our session today. There probably were, or maybe will be still today, some sessions that touch upon Tabadmin in a bit more detail, so you can go to those if you're interested. But basically, Tabcmd is a Windows tool that comes pre-installed with Tableau Server. So as you download and install Tableau Server, Tabcmd will come automatically with it. However, you can also download it as a standalone utility. So why would you do that? For example, if you want to run Tabcmd from a machine that is not your Tableau Server machine, in that case, you can just download Tabcmd on its own. And as long as your machine has access to Tableau Server, then you can use Tabcmd from that machine to perform all the different tasks. And also one thing, when I'm talking about Tableau Server, that means that you can actually also use Tabcmd with Tableau Online. And yeah, as I mentioned, Tabcmd is mostly used to automate different administrative and content management tasks within Tableau Server. So what are those things that we can do using Tabcmd? So there are a few kind of groups of tasks that Tabcmd performs. So first of all, managing content, and especially publishing new content to Tableau Server. So there would be things like publishing workbooks, data sources, data extracts. Also, we can manage that content that we publish. So we can manage sites, create projects, and we can also delete content and refresh data extracts in Tableau Server. Another big chunk of tasks that Tabcmd does is managing users and groups. So we can do things like creating users, creating groups, adding users to groups, moving users between groups, and synchronizing Tableau Server with Active Directory. And I believe my co-presenter is here. So that's Kieran. So next, I would like to share with you some popular use cases. So what is Tabcmd mostly used for? How our customers use it? So one of the big one of the most popular use cases is generating static PDF reports from Tableau server. So using Tabcmd, you can create a script that would export PDF reports or PDF versions of your workbooks, and you can save them locally, and then you can do various different things with them. For example, sending out as an email attachment for the users who don't have access to Tableau server. Another big task that you can do is automate Tableau server content deployment. So for example, tasks like publishing content to the test environment, verifying the content, republishing into the production environment, all of those tasks can be automated and scheduled using Tabcmd. Automatically synchronizing users with Active Directory, so that can be set up in Tableau server interface, or they can be run as a Tabcmd script. Refresh and extracts, another big task that Tabcmd does. So why would we set up an extract refresh using Tabcmd rather than just setting it up in Tableau server? That's because doing it this way gives us more flexibility. So we are not limited to just a schedule within Tableau server. We can also, for example, refresh that extract based on some trigger. So a completion of an ETL task, loading data into the warehouse, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a specific time every week or every month. It can be a one-off task whenever the ETL process is complete. We refresh the extract. And also another use case that I've seen quite recently, actually one of our partners in Europe does that. To kind of spread Tableau, so before their customers actually buy licenses so all their users can access Tableau server, they build a web portal for them that generates static PDF reports. So they enter different parameters, like I want region A, I want certain dates, and that web portal generates a PDF report for them that can then be emailed to that customer. So yeah, so PDFs, as you probably heard many times, not the best way to consume Tableau content. Of course, we want you to access Tableau server and to interact with the content. However, what we see is that's a good place to start. So that helps adoption a lot. There are a lot of people who are used to consuming PDF reports, and we don't want to push them straight in Tableau server. However, as they start getting those PDF reports, they start getting a bit more interested. Oh, what is that? Where did that come from? And that's where you can introduce them to the interactive Tableau server reports. So let's have a look at some technical things. So first of all, where do I find Tabcmd? So as I mentioned, comes pre-installed with Tableau server, and you can find it. So when you install Tableau server, all your files will be, well, it depends, but in most cases, will program files, and Tabcmd is located there in the bin folder. However, if you download it as a standalone application, in that case, that directory might be different. So, but you will find it. It is in program files somewhere. Does Tabcmd work with Mac? So there are ways of how we can set up Tabcmd on Mac. And we have put links here for you. So if you want to run Tabcmd on Mac, you can just follow instructions that are described in those links. So you will be able to download this presentation afterwards and just follow along. And also, with our Linux release coming quite soon, Tabcmd will also be available on Linux. So let's actually go into command line and Tabcmd and see how we can get started with Tabcmd. So first of all, let me just jump to the command line. Maybe later. So I run my command line. I open it up. So first, what I need to do is to navigate to my Tabcmd. So to do that, I just need to change directory to where my Tabcmd is located. So you can see in my case, it's program files, Tableau server, etc., command line utility in that folder there. So I'll just copy this. By the way, we kind of pre-built all those different commands, so we don't have to waste time typing it in front of you with a lot of errors and mistakes. So let me just paste it. So I say cd, change directory, to that folder where command line is installed. And now we have, you can see now we changed the directory to Tabcmd. So next thing that we usually would want to do is to start a session with Tableau Server. So like with any other way of accessing Tableau Server, first thing is we need to authenticate. So Tableau Server needs to know which user is logging in using Tabcmd. And to do that, we can use a Tabcmd login command. So if I just run this one, so I just say Tabcmd login. Under the S option, I specify the URL or the IP address of the Tableau server. And then I need to say which site I'm logging into, Vegas 17, and my username and password. And I just run that. And now I am successfully signed in to my Tableau server. So one thing to keep in mind here, so as you are logging in as a Tableau server user, what you will be able to do using Tabcmd will be limited to what are you allowed to do in Tableau server. So those permissions and roles, all of those things are still applied when you're using Tabcmd. If you don't have permission to export, for example, you won't be able to export using Tabcmd. Same goes for publishing tasks, adding users, etc. So as you could see, I used the change directory. I navigated to my directory where Tabcmd is installed. And I need to do that every time I want to run Tabcmd. What if I don't want to do that every time? I can then set up a Windows path variable. And probably Kieran is better to talk about this.
Yeah, so every time that we want to start to use Tabcmd, we just want to write it no matter what directory we find ourselves in at that moment. We could be at C users or C Windows. We just want to use that from the beginning. Who's familiar with Windows path variables in the audience? OK, so a few people. It's a great way just to have an application or a program execute from anywhere. So I'll just show you very quickly how that can be set. It's quite simple. Go back here. Thank you. So I'll just go into my control panel. And from there, I don't like this view. I always have to go into the smaller icons, but I can go into my system. And from system, I can go into advanced system settings. And then again, down into environment variables. And you'll find a system variable for path down here. And if you define the path for that Tabcmd location, that directory where Tabcmd sits, you will be able to call that command from any directory that you'll find yourself in. So all of your scripts, doesn't matter what root directory you're calling those scripts from, they will execute correctly. OK. Some of the problems we were having the previous session was with our actual VPN, but it looks like it's OK at the moment. So going on from that,
yeah, I can cover next one, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Nice.
So as you could probably already see, the syntax Tabcmd is quite simple. So we start any command with Tabcmd, so calling Tabcmd tool. Then we type the actual command. So for example, I use Tabcmd login. And then each command usually comes with a set of options. So options allow us to specify different variables, which site we want to log in, where is the workbook that we want to publish, where we want to save it, etc. So each command is different, comes with different options. And the best kind of place to find those options is to go to the online help on our website. And there you will see a full list of all the different options and how each command works. Oh, God, sorry. So a couple of useful tips that we kind of ran into trouble a bit using Tabcmd ourselves, and we want for you to avoid that. So versions is very important. If you use Tabcmd on a machine that is separate from Tableau server, it will mean that when you update Tableau server, your Tabcmd is not going to update on a different machine. So make sure when Tableau server is updated, download a new version of Tabcmd from our website, because Most of the time, it might not matter. Some of the tasks will run exactly as they did before, but we ran into a few problems with publishing specifically, and then we discovered that we're actually using different version of Tabcmd, and that's what was causing this error and issue. Saved password. So sometimes we build scripts, and we want to share them with, I don't know, someone else in the organization. And usually, each Tabcmd script will start with Tabcmd login, and then you need to specify username and password. Not always we just want to type in our password into that script. So in that case, we can actually reference a password file. And what the file is a simple text file that can be located in, I don't know, any secure location maybe on your machine. And that looks just like this. So as you can see, it's just a text file. And what I have here is just my password, which for me is admin. So that's it. And that can be stored anywhere from where you can call it. So you don't have to type in your password in the command line. Sorry?
Yeah. That's the option that you'll use. So you could have the application run through a run as user account in a secure location that normal users wouldn't have access to. There's no other way to pass or parse that value through to Tabcmd. It would be through that. That's the only option that you might have with a secure location.
Yeah, and the permission is something that I already mentioned. What you can do with Tabcmd will be limited by your roles and permissions that you have set up as a user in Tableau server. So where can I find help? So Tabcmd has a lot of different commands, and they all come with different options. So you need to know how to use those. You can either go on our website in the online help section, or actually, if you don't want to kind of log out or go out of the command line itself, you can just type in Tabcmd help, and then you can get help. You can type Tabcmd help command, and then you will get a list of different commands, all the options that come with, and how to use those. So that is available in the command line tool directly. And also, quite often when we, for example, want to export a piece of content, we would call a URL of that content, so a workbook, for example. And as we call in a URL, it is important to kind of encode those URLs accordingly. So there can be spaces, for example, in the URL. So then that have to be replaced with %20 and things like that. So just important to keep in mind. We'll see an example of where this is particularly useful to remember. So let's actually now start running some commands. So we're going to show you all the different things that you can do in Tabcmd, and then we're going to go through creating scripts for a number of different tasks and applications. So I'll let Kieran start with the content publishing.
I'm going to run off your laptop because mine is not playing nice. OK, so the predefined scripts that we've already got created here that Irina used to log in, we're going to continue to use those, OK, for the interest of time. So I'll take this Tabcmd create project command. And it's very simple. You're just passing an argument of the name of the project and a description that I'll want to show. That description could contain a URL link to a PNG if you wanted to apply an image to that project. I know a lot of our customers are doing that at the moment, but I'll come across to my command prompt, and I'll just paste this in. And that will work perfectly. I'll just go to my site. And here's my Tabcmd project I just created right there. Okay? So we'll parse through some of these examples, and then together at the end, we'll combine them all inside a batch file to show you how to do that. So bear with me for just a moment. I'll take my workbook. Because I've created that project, I want to continue by populating that project with some content. So I can go ahead. Again, I'm specifying where the workbook is coming from, what project I want to save that workbook to. I'm going to give it a different name. It doesn't have to be the same name of the actual local TWBX that exists on my machine. So go ahead and publish that. Depending on the size of that workbook and how much data is in that package workbook, that process can take a while. And as a best practice, we would recommend publishing the data source and the workbook separately and having them reference each other accordingly. OK, so when we have our content that exists on the server, we want to, for example, export some piece of content. So we'll take this very, very basic export to PDF command. We're not doing anything fancy. We're not applying filters. We're not asking for specific other arguments that we want to parse to it. We're just going to get the raw dashboard down in a PDF. Again, quite simple. We're specifying PDF and the target directory we want to save our content to.
And then you can see that we are referencing the name of the workbook, Superstore Overview. And this name you will just be able to find, if you navigate Tableau Server to that piece of content, you'll see that each workbook is actually referenced in this way. So
I'll show you right now.
Yeah.
So in our case, if I go to Overview here, you'll see that the reference that is found within the URL is the reference I want to use when I'm using Tabcmd. Tabcmd is going to be using the HTTP protocol, so it's going to be using those references all the time. So this is our content. If I jump over to my export directory, you will find my Superstore PDF here. And this is it. We can see the 1050 timestamp exists for the 12th. And we'll take a look at that, and that's as much as we've asked Tableau Server to produce. Just a PDF off the workbook, no filtering, and available for me to share or distribute to my users in any means that I find necessary. So keep moving. I'm going to export next time, and at this stage I want to apply a filter to my content. So I'll come across and drop this into my command prompt. You'll notice that parsing or passing a filter to my content, I will distinguish this or identify that filter with the question mark. And I'm not limited to having just one option. I could have west, comma, south, comma, north, as many of those values as I want. It's a good thing to point out as well that that filter does not have to exist on the workbook itself. That just has to be a field that exists in the data source. Okay? So it doesn't have to exist as a filter in your content. You can call that as long as it's in the data source. And I can have this PDF generate according to that filter. So it's Superstore West. Hit enter. And this is kind of the problems we were having before. What have I got wrong there? Whoever got that? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. There we go, and we can go back over to our exports west. So this is my, let's make sure we've refreshed this. When I have my dashboard west filtered, I'll get it accordingly. So I could run this script parsing through east, west, north, all my different users, and then distribute it accordingly to those users within a batch file, for example. Okay, what about multiple fields and also the ASCII definitions for spaces and special characters like Irina mentioned before? That's no problem either. We can parse that through. So we've got export from site Vegas, our region west, and our ship mode first class. So you can see the percentage 20 being used to define the space within that URL. Again, PDF, and we're just going to export it as Superstore FC. Okay, jumping across to our content here. You'll find that, if I make sure this is refreshed. So here's a 12:10:53. Just now we have that already generated. And again, we've got the sorting on the ship mode. Go across back to this. So if I want to extract the actual content, not the actual PDF or PNG, I want to get the workbook, the Tableau content from the server, I have to use a slightly different command. I have to use tabcmd get, and that will allow me to retrieve the TWB or the TWBX from the server and save it locally on my target machine. So you might be wondering why export doesn't work and you're specifying TWBX. Just use the get command. Again, we'll use that. Copy it into the command prompt. And we saved it locally. Here's our 12th of October at 10:54. That's our workbook right there. Any questions so far? Okay. Yeah. And which?
Tabcmd Linux, server Windows.
So Tabcmd Linux? So Tabcmd is going to be fully available on Linux. Yeah. At the moment, so the same workaround that we have for Mac, you could apply to Unix or Linux-based systems. So you'd have to install it first on a Windows-based machine, and from there we'd have to extract the jar files and move them across, and then have them execute from the Linux machine. But with the Linux release that's coming towards the end of the year, that's going to be fully available, and there's going to be a standalone version of that too. Okay. Okay, so just jumping back across to the slide deck. So we've got through, so all of the steps and all of the commands that we've spoken about just a moment ago, they all exist within the slide deck, so if you want to reference them back again, you can do so at your own leisure. So I'll just, we've highlighted some of the key components, so the question mark, the percentage 20, the ampersand sign to combine filters together. This could be very useful for you. Again, full workbooks, you have that available to you. So then we start talking about published data sources. And if you take a look at this for an example, we may have extracts that we want to publish to our server, but we also have to make sure the server knows where that extract was built and how the server can refresh that going forward. So you can pass some details. So in this case, I've got a packaged TDSX, so a Tableau data source, a packaged Tableau data source file. And as I'm publishing this, I can pass through the username and password that's required to refresh that file. So I might need that. I'll definitely need it if I want my refreshes to run successfully. So it's important to know that you need to specify those at the time of publishing. Okay. And again, because of that, I can then go ahead and use my refresh extracts command. We were having problems, and this is partly due to the reasons why we swapped over laptops, but we were having problems connecting through to the VPN. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to ping the SQL Server in this case for this example, so we might just skip over that because I was having a lot of problems there with the refresh extracts.
Yeah, but I guess the important thing is to remember that you can embed the credentials of the database when you publish the data source, and then those credentials will be used as you run the refresh extract task. Okay, let's have a look at another big group of tasks that are available using Tabcmd. Let me zoom in a little bit. Try at least. Is managing users. So I can run a number of different tasks. So let's start with creating a group within Tableau Server. So as you can see now, if I go to users, I only have an admin and a guest user. So my default ones, and I have no groups specified except the default all user group that exists all the time. So I'm going to go ahead and create a group. Sales department. So I'll go back, see if it's there. Just refresh. And now I have my sales department group created. As you can see, there are no users in it yet. So it has 0 users. So let's actually add some users to Tableau Server. The way we can add users to Tableau Server using Tabcmd would be uploading a PDF template that contains all our users. That's, of course, sorry, CSV. That's, of course, if we are using local authentication as our authentication method with Tableau Server. Alternatively, you can sync with Active Directory and add your users that way. So let's see how that PDF template actually looks like. So in the PDF, so there are a number of things that you can specify about each user. So of course, username and password. There will be unique username for each user. You can specify their display name, their role, so everything from interactive viewer to site administrator, whether they have administrator level, whether they can publish, and their email address in case you want to use subscriptions. And you can see there are no headers in that CSV. That's because Tableau Server reads every line of that CSV as a user. So we don't have any headers. But in that case, order of the columns is very important because that's how Tableau server is going to determine where is username, where is password, etc. And I have that CSV just on my machine. Let's have a look. Users. So I'm adding a few 4 users to Tableau server. I'm going to run that create users command. So the create users, that one we actually use to upload this CSV and create users that do not exist yet in Tableau server. So I get some feedback that we have 4 lines processed, we have 4 user edit, no errors. So let's see. Go back to server. I'm going to refresh, go to user section, and now I have, instead of just having admin and guests as I had before, now I have some users added to my Tableau server. The next task would be to actually assign those users to groups. So remember we created the sales department group? So let's add some users to that sales department group. And the way we can do that is, again, by using that same CSV template. So we're going to use another separate CSV template that will contain only users that we want to add to the sales department group. And to do that, I am going to use the add users command. So that sometimes can be a bit confusing. So add users is used not to actually add users to Tableau server, but to add users that already exist in Tableau server to a specific group. So let's do that.
So while Irina's doing that, any users that exist in files that I try to upload again to Tableau server, they won't be replaced, but their site role can be changed and redefined in that updated published to Tableau server. Published is the wrong word, but the actual, is that working now? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so we have 2 users now added to the sales department group. If I open it up, you can see that we have Fred and Henry in sales.
Yeah, so we glanced over another command as well, which was delete users. So you could maintain a list of users that you do. So you might envisage having a number of different CSV files, one for, let's say, sales group, one for HR group, one for delete users group, one for your overall system users group. I know that I have multiple groups for the Tableau server instance that I run for our team back in London.
Yeah, and this is a great way of managing your users. So you just maintain that CSV, and you can run a script that will run on a regular basis, so you can make sure your users are always up to date. So talking about creating scripts and automating them, let's talk about batch files very quickly. So once I have some task that I want to run on a regular basis in Tableau server, I create a script. A script might contain multiple commands, so it will definitely contain multiple commands. I need to at least log in, then run my actual task and log out. So we have a simple example of a kind of script that you might use in Tabcmd. So you can see here, I'm logging into my Tableau server, I'm creating a project, I'm publishing a workbook into that project, and then I run an export of that, of a view with some filters set up, and then I log out.
Yeah, so nothing amazingly mind-blowing here,
crazy,
but just
yes.
using the examples we had previous, you might be able to relate to what you could potentially do back within your organizations. Who's used or who's worked with batch files before? Okay, so a significant amount of people. A lot of people who come to this session, they actually take that away as, wow, I never knew I could do that. I never knew I could combine these commands together for Tabcmd and possibly with another tool as well, up together into a batch file and have that run on a schedule. So that's cool that you guys already know.
Yeah, so for those who don't actually work or haven't worked with that yet, so batch file is a way to kind of save that script in a file, and then we run the batch file. We can schedule it to run on a regular basis. So I'm just going to copy this script that I've created, and all I need to do is to open a new text file. Sorry, just going to go to Notepad. Paste the script. I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to choose the Save As option. Here, it's important to save it as all files, so use this all files kind of as a type. And the actual extension, I am going to specify in the name of that file. So I'm going to say batch.bat. So this is the extension that I need to use for the batch file. And I'm just going to click Save. And I will show you an example of how that looks like in the end. So for example, here we have a number of those batch files with a BAT extension that we can automate and run on a scheduled basis. So let's go ahead and look at some more advanced examples of those scripts and those files that we can create. And also important to mention here, so Tabcmd is a command line tool. And those scripts don't have to be purely Tabcmd. You can actually integrate Tabcmd into a script of a different tool, so you can combine a number of different tasks within one batch file and run that, automate that. And we have example of doing exactly that for creating exports, PDF exports of our content in Tableau server, integrating it with an email tool in a command line, and emailing those exports out to users. So let's have a look at the example, but we might run it on your machine.
Yeah, so we actually, for this session, we tried to come up with some creative ways to inspire you guys to use Tabcmd in conjunction with another tool. So you can see here for this example, we're using this Boot email executable that we just downloaded for free. They had a documentation about how to run this in the command line, and we can just combine it with Tabcmd. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as we can reference that executable file, we can run that. And so in this example here, we're parsing through our SMTP service, which we're using Gmail, but you could be using your own Exchange server locally. Our authentication, don't save that password. I mean, we don't even use that account. And all the way across to the actual users I want to email this content to, the subject I want to parse through that field, and then attach a file as well. So I could do this, I could attach multiple different files for this example. Another one we were working on, but we didn't quite get there, we ran out of credits, was we were actually sending SMSs or multimedia messages to our phone with PNGs of the dashboards that we'd created. So there are vendors and there are applications online where you can do the same thing but for SMSs and push content straight through to people's phones using MMSs. So that's really cool, but we ran out of credits on the free trial and we couldn't get it working again. And between the session and our dry runs, and we got a bit excited, and yeah, that's a bit of a disappointment. But okay, let me switch over.
There are a number of tools if you are interested in SMS. There are command line tools that can generate those SMS, send them out. Or there are tools like email to MMS or SMS. You can actually email that file, and then that would automatically trigger sending out an SMS or MMS. But we don't want to reference any vendor in particular here, so there are plenty of them. You're moving to yours?
Yeah, let me move over to mine. It's going to be a very basic example, but we're using that email content example. I hope this works. I'm having a lot of issues. So our previous session with Tabcmd, actually we couldn't do the demo itself. We had to run through the examples through the PowerPoint because the network was down, and it was really a tough session to work through. My headphones are fine. Let me take my batch email. So I've got my batch email here exactly the same as what Irina has just there. I will jump across to my TC Vegas. And there we've got my email batch. Okay? So to run that, I'm going to hope that this works and everything's running fine. It looks like I'm on the VPN. It looks like I've got connection. I hit run as administrator just to make sure I have all of the permissions available to execute that. Okay, I've got breaks in there as well because when I was creating this code, I included the pause command or the pause call so that I could parse through it bit by bit so I could debug or find out where my process might be failing. Very useful if you're creating batch files for the first time. So now at the moment we're calling the actual email client itself, and then we get a message saying that the email has been sent without errors. And I'm logging out at the end. So what I'm expecting to see is a desktop notification appear with my email. Let's see, give it a moment.
I logged into Gmail. I logged.
Huh?
Check the email.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
So the email address that I used, well, I gotta actually go into the actual file itself rather than that one. Yeah, so it's the email that I'd set up with my Gmail for this session.
Just go to Gmail.
I'm going across to Gmail. oops, not the incognito mode, but the actual normal one. It's not come through yet. I could be experiencing some network issues.
Well, we had to go to London. Maybe it's going to take a while.
No, guys, it's definitely going through Seattle. Okay, we've got it here. I had this whole Chrome extension popping up and showing, and I actually had a really cool guy going, "You got mail." And that would have been cool to have working, but we didn't get there. Unfortunately, the Chrome extension failed us at this juncture, but we've got the email here with our Superstore attachment included. Okay? So you could do the same thing. You could attach multiple different files. You could have a packaged workbooks combined in this email, as long as they fit within the size restriction of your attachments. That's absolutely fine. But we see a lot of customers using this. Again, echoing what Irina said at the beginning with trying to enable adoption and expose people to Tableau. This is a great method to do that. And you can automate it and have it run on a schedule as and when you like. Okay, swing across to here. So those steps, well, actually one thing, I suppose it's not exactly Tableau related, but if I wanted to schedule this, like Irina was saying before, you got an ETL task that runs and you want this to trigger or run after an ETL task, I can have this run with the task scheduler, for example, Windows. It comes as default with Windows, where I could create a task itself, give the task a name. In this case, I'll just mash the keyboard, and then I'll have a trigger. So basically, how do I want this task to actually run, or when do I want it to run? Okay, hold on a second. My mouse is... If anyone's wondering why my laptop's being so slow, Irina dropped my laptop yesterday, and I'm shocked that it's still working. Okay, so here's where we can define our schedule. Again, at whatever cadence you want, you can use this same principle, any batch file from a task scheduler that is already in existence within your organization. This Windows one is just a simple example. So I've defined my time, and then I can say my action I want to occur. So I haven't told it yet what I want it to do, but I can reference the batch file itself by navigating to where the batch file is saved and say, this is the batch file I want to run. Any questions with that, guy? Anyone unfamiliar with task scheduling? Yeah. Yeah. 100%, yeah. You could actually create a folder with every single revision that you might potentially have for your process. And you might have another batch file that cleans that folder up periodically, if you wanted to. So you have not a revision, it's not a revision per se, but you can always refer back to it to say, well, guys, I did send out that email, and that email did contain this workbook, and you have a reference and a file to compare that to. So it's going to be completely separate when you do it through Tabcmd. The reason why you do it is we can't define on Tableau Server's graphical user interface to run the refreshed extract after, let's say, an ETL job with another system. So you've got multiple different data sources pushing through into your data warehouse. Tableau has no scope as to how that's working. So you can create that command, and you could have that run on completion, or with the 10-minute buffer within the completion of an ETL task, for example. And there's no way to track that from the GUI perspective because it's running completely independent of Tableau Server. Any other questions? Yeah?
So what happens if you try to create a user for Tabcmd that already exists?
So that's a good question. So if you have users that already exist, you could change their site role within, so if let's say I have Joe, and I've already added him like 2 weeks before. I have Joe that exists again, but I've actually changed his site role. His user site role is going to be updated when I run that, not add users, it's create users.
Yeah. But if nothing is updated, that user will still just exist as it is.
Okay, so we're coming nicely towards the end of our session. I've got the steps for the automation that exist here, if you want to go through those. There we go. I parsed it out very, very quickly. Okay. We showed that demonstration as well, huh?
The population site?
Oh, yeah, the populated site example. I've got this. So just to combine everything that we've learned really, really quickly, I have one last and final thing to show. So just to combine and to create a larger, more extensive batch file, I've got this create all batch. And again, it really doesn't make much sense in this context. I've just used the commands that we've created. I've created a large file with a lot of creating groups, publishing data sources, publishing content, and pushing it all up to server at the same time. I could define this and I could lock this down immediately and have this just run if I wanted to, I don't know, do some agile development on a new environment, and I wanted to just run this script and populate it with content so that I can get going within minutes. So I'll do that. I'll run this very quickly. It's all the same commands we've used already from before, but it's going to take a little bit longer because we've got multiple different data sources, multiple different workbooks that we're publishing. So you'll see this go through it. And once we're done, we'll have a fully populated site with content, users, and immediately ready for testing, if that's what I want to do. Or if I'm starting my Tableau server for the first time, and I have a load of content that my desktop users have created already, I could define this, create all batch file quite quickly. So while that's running, I would like to direct your attention to our mobile app for feedback on the session. So if you guys enjoy the session, or if you have any feedback on what you'd like to see in subsequent or following sessions with Tabcmd, we'd greatly appreciate your feedback. And we had a bit of an IT disaster the other day running our session, but we rescued it, we'd like to think, through the PowerPoint. Today, everything went smoothly, thank God. But please do get on the app and give us feedback. It helps us know what we can do better for you, and it helps us, give you relevant content for your use cases. With that, I'd like to say thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.